On a property on the outskirts of Perth, these two grey nomads are preparing for an unusual journey.
Here's some posts.
This isn't your average road trip. Trevor Tuff and Alex Aitken are on a mission.
It's a bit heavy. We've written to 70 of the cattle properties in the Kimberley, and we'll call into as many as we can, but I don't think we'll get to all of them.
I don't think so.
They've got enough materials to restore about 100 graves.
Computer and map. Aluminium plates. Last one. This is all.
Many of them the final resting places of pioneers. But not all of them.
This is our first plaque that we've made, and it's for Dr. Peter Saunders, and he was a vet in Kununurra, and Pete passed away not long ago, and his wife has asked us to take him up with us, so we've got Pete's ashes that's coming along with us.
On the road again, just can't wait to get on the road again.
From the bitumen of the city to the Pindan of the north, their first stop is Liveringa Station in the central Kimberley.
On the road again.
Trevor and Alex have set up camp at the old Liveringa homestead and are preparing for their first expedition. Their Bible is a book about lonely graves that lists the pioneer graves but only has sketchy details of their locations.
Well, we'll be doing some walking around in the bush. We'll be walking around some.
Yeah.
The first grave they're looking for belongs to a teenager who died at Liveringa more than a century ago.
This Augustus Frederick Skipworth, he was only 15 years and 9 months old. He was a labourer here, and his father was also a labourer here. And this poor young lad died back in early 1904.
There's an air of optimism as the hunt begins and an urgency to beat the midday heat. They've got little information to work with, just that Skipworth was buried at the base of a baobab tree.
Right over in this direction,
Well,
yeah.
you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 baobabs, 5 baobabs and the big one.
After a kilometre hike, they hit the jackpot.
Brilliant. Well, yeah.
2 dilapidated grave sites, one still clearly marked as belonging to young Augustus Skipworth.
It's a relatively well cared for, well presented.
Yes,
grave site.
he had family here, so obviously you can imagine in those days they couldn't make a plaque. They would have had to send off to Perth to have it made and sent up by ship.
There you go, Trev.
Laying the plaque offers a chance for the pair to reflect on the life of a man they never met, but now feel strangely protective of.
It's a beautiful place and it's really quite moving. It's a privilege to be able to do this. It really is.
Meanwhile, the second gravesite over here is a lot more humble. It's believed to belong to a man called Charles Clopper, who was a kangaroo shooter in the area who died of malaria. Now, it's believed that the metal plaque here actually dates back to 1904 when he died.
There are thousands of unmarked or abandoned graves scattered across outback Australia, and each tells a tale of hardship. Alex and Trevor are determined to revive those stories, no matter how arduous the search. The idea was hatched at a school reunion.
We went to a 50th reunion last year, not having seen each other, and just picked up where we left off. It was extraordinary, yeah.
With a shared love of history, they came up with a plan to create an online database of all the bush graves in the Kimberley. They're using the latest technology to create memorials while out on the road. Most of the graves at Liveringa Station date back to the late 1800s, when a handful of families grazed thousands of sheep along the banks of the Fitzroy River.
So many of the graves we've come across of young men of 19, 21, 23 years old, and they would have been fit, robust, strong young fellas, and they died of malaria and snake bite and drowning, so it was hard going for them.
Today, this is cattle country, and Trevor and Alex have got plenty of support for their project from station owners and managers across the region.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi. I'm Mandy.
Yeah, and I'm Trev.
Hi, Trevor.
I'm Alex, Mandy.
Hi, Alex.
Good to meet you.
Welcome to
Yeah.
Liveringa.
So good
Mandy
to-
Frost and her husband have been taking care of the old Liveringa homestead for 7 years and have a treasure trove of old photos.
Really, I can't even remember where I got this one from. That's way back in the day.
Mandy Frost is glad the visiting historians are trying to locate the gravesite she's heard about but never been able to find.
I do not know how they survived here in the early day, but usually our heat starts building up. Sometimes August, we've recorded days here of 53 degrees. If we didn't have that air conditioning, we wouldn't be here. I just don't know how they did it with no fly screens, no power.
This one here, you'll notice
This first field trip is limited to 5 weeks, but already Trevor and Alex are getting a sense of the enormity of the task ahead.
These graves are just disappearing. And once the grave itself has disappeared, the whole stories of that person goes. So it is urgent.
They hope their expedition will inspire others. A possible army of retirees, documenting Australia's history one bush grave at a time.
We really desperately need researchers, but also we're after other like-minded people, retired folk, who have the equipment and can afford to buy a little engraving machine to go out as other teams, and then they can feed their information and finds back into our system.
But first, they have one special mission to complete. A few hundred kilometres further up the road, laying the ashes of their friend Peter Saunders.
So it's a good personal bit to the trip as well for us. Kununurra is a good place for him. He's going home. It's all part of our history, isn't it? You know, and it doesn't matter who it is that's died here. They all had a story, and all those stories are worth recording. And if we can mark the spot and record their story, that's wonderful.